Hey, hey!
Happy Friday, everyone.
Friday!
Another Friday in the books, another Friday morning in the books, at least. Glad everyone was able to join us, or many of you were able to join us for another CMO Coffee Talk for Sip Club. And Latney, we're usually doing these Friday video recaps, just the two of us. Have a very special guest. I don't know which direction I'm supposed to point right now. Kimberly Storing, who joined us this morning to talk about corporate strategy. And a lot of things that honestly, for both of you, I mean, many times marketers aren't thought of in terms of building corporate strategy, in terms of thinking about restructuring, in terms of not just communicating, but driving M&A activity. But in the spirit of the chief marketing officer, this is very much an opportunity for marketing leaders to embrace more responsibility in the business.
Absolutely.
And Kim, you are a chief market officer. So tell us what that means.
Well, I mean, I think I can go on and on and on about what that means, but I think, I was telling the story this morning and previously, but Ray Lane, who is just an icon in Silicon Valley, said it best a few weeks ago. He said CMOs need to think like CEOs more than any other executive in the company. So challenge to CMOs, it's time to be a CEO. And I think he's spot on. And I think that really dovetails nicely with this concept of what we're trying to do as a chief market officer versus a marketing officer, right? The idea of being strategic, being able to step back and understand the role that marketing can play in driving the business forward, and being able to bring whatever pivot points we need to in order to help the company move forward. And it's not just about those tools that are in our toolbox. It's really about how do we think differently? How do we put the market in focus for the entire business?
So one tip that you would have, and you talked about it this morning, and I called it a ballsy move.
Invest in research.
Yes. What do you invest in?
Invest in research. So if you're going into an industry where there's a ton of analyst, research, and there's a lot of research out there, like go invest in it, go figure out how to get your hands on it. If that research does not exist, right? I joined an industry where there just aren't, those resources. We don't have magic quadrants that cover our space. We don't have, IDC in-depth research that covers our space. We have to go invest in it and make it a priority. And it's hard to prioritize that, right? It costs money to go talk to people that you wish were your customers. But we have to do it, and we have to think of those creative ways to go out there and talk to the market before we can build our strategy.
Well, and there were a lot of really good examples shared this morning of companies that have used research not only as a way to sort of help create and measure and define the addressable market, but also help justify it internally as a content creation activity as well, right? That this isn't just market insights, which in and of itself is crazy Freudian slip, sometimes crazy expensive, but also crazy valuable, but also produces content. And I think that also we found a number of other areas where chief market officers can kind of push the boundary of the traditional marketing element. I thought of it as sort of gateway roles, right? Where you think about the research, win-loss analysis, competitive intelligence. I mean, these are some areas where, if you're not quite ready to drive an M&A activity or restructuring, whether you're not familiar with it or you don't have the credibility on the team yet, there are those functions that you can start to expand your role and your influence.
And that's the biggest piece, right? Raise your hand. I think sometimes, our CEOs don't know the capabilities fully that we bring to the table because our day is filled with MQLs and social media and, websites, et cetera, that we have to continuously raise our hand and put it out there and demand for marketing to have that seat at the table on those really important strategic initiatives, whether it's a digital transformation initiative or a strategic repositioning. There's so many opportunities for us to raise our hand. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in the details that we forget to do that.
Shameless plug for my friend Matt Hines here. If you need market research and you sell to the go-to-market function, Look no farther than Heinz Marketing. He does awesome market research. Just saying.
Shucks, but thank you, Latney, for that. Some other things that were brought up this morning. I think, first of all, also shout out to Carrie Lynn Dietrich, who suggested this topic. We had a couple of conversations, as we were saying, Kimberly, this morning, that I think could have gone on for a lot longer, very robust discussions. And she said something towards the end. She said, when in her CMO consulting as a CMO coach herself, the biggest mistake she sees people make is not investing enough in the relationships they see around them, right? The relationship you have with your CEO, the relationship you have with your CFO, the relationship with the board. That relationship will allow you to take on some of these other projects, for people to give you the benefit of the doubt. Maybe you haven't done it before, but they believe in you because of that relationship, because of what they've seen from you. Can you talk a little bit about that element of setting the table for that broader CMO role?
Absolutely. And I think it was funny because I was really thinking about this after our session this morning, and going from a big company to a small company. One of the things I've realized is that I thought I was a really good reader of people, right? At a big company, I was like, oh, I can read these people. I can build these relationships. I understand it. But really, it's like 50% of that was the context and the structure and the governance process that a big company brought to the table. Mm-hmm. And then you go to a small company and you realize, without having that overlay of structure and governance, that it's much harder to read people. And it does take a lot more of an investment in the relationships and understanding what makes people tick and how you can demonstrate your value. And so I think that's been a big learning for me as I've moved into this new role of how do I better understand, without the structure and governance of how to build that trust and relationship with each of the key stakeholders. And it takes a lot of one-on-one time. And I think, we were talking about it this morning, but I think being able to show, so when you have these one-on-ones and you're getting the context and the insights from your peers, when you bring a recommendation to the table, you have to be cognizant of how to enable all of them to see themselves in that recommendation in some way, shape, or form, but to see that they were heard. And that's not always the easiest process, but I found it to be the best advice that I've gotten as I've moved into this new role.
I thought it's also like a good reminder, some of the discussion today, that your relationship with sales is obviously a key one, but your relationship with the CFO, Alex talked about a bi-weekly with the CFO, at least an hour, and that being kind of one of his big partners in crime. Product. I think product needs the market intelligence as much as anyone, right? Mm-hmm. And if you don't have, product market fit, doesn't matter how many MQLs you create, you're not going to close anything. And so that relationship with product as well, I thought was a good thread that got surfaced today.
Yeah, I mean, the relationship with product, and also is another opportunity for CMOs to sort of embrace a bigger role, is to sort of think about product roadmap, right? Whereas if you feel like as a CMO, you're stuck in pipeline land, you're stuck in generate me more leads now, please. Even if you have a good relationship with sales plus marketing is pipeline, that's leads. I think you mentioned this morning, sales plus marketing plus product, that's market impact, right? And so you can still get better efficiency by those insights in thinking about the product and product roadmap, but broadening that role and broadening that scope and using that as another gateway opportunity to embrace a bigger role and have a bigger impact on the business, pretty significant.
I thought it was an awesome session, and we got a lot of great assets.
Yes.
We got amazing assets. So if you're watching this video, if you are not in the CMO Coffee Talk Content Hub, we will put a link at the bottom of this video to get into there. It is free, no registration required. We'll have some assets up there available. We also, Latney, what we got? We got a couple book recommendations. We got some new go-to-market research. There were a couple research reports shared indicating different sort of marketing team investment levels by stage of business. We talked a lot about doing research and doing customer interviews. We got a former Forrester analyst to share some secret sauce and some interview templates. So go absolutely go. So if you are not in the Content Hub, if you're not in the Slack channel, if you are a marketing leader and you're not in this community, definitely take advantage of it. You can direct message or email both Latney and I. We'll get you a ticket. We'll get you in. No slides, no pitches, no recordings.
No recordings. Yeah. And what do we have coming up? Matt.
So again, thank you, Kimberly, for your generosity and insights on this. Coming up, so next week, if you're watching this, sort of, around, the beginning of December, I think the second week of December, we have a session on product-led marketing. So using the product as your marketing lead. So speaking of product roadmap, a great way to combine those two. And then on the 18th, our last coffee talk of 2020, we are doing Swipe File Friday. So basically, and if you're coming, you can bring your ugly sweater, you can bring your reindeer hat, just wear whatever you want, optional, but bring something to share. It can be a template, it can be an A/B test you did. I think we all need to be stealing from each other more often.
Shamelessly.
We're gonna have fun. We're gonna ease into the holiday season at the end of December, and just share and steal ideas from each other.
All right. Well, happy Friday, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. And Kimberly, I could listen to you all day, sister.
Aww.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Next time.